when someone told me, well, I expect for you as a staff engineer to be a multiplier for the team, I never actually understood what it meant. And for
Mhm.
me, a multiplier means hundred of things. I mean, multiply productivity, multiply experience, multiply knowledge. But in reality, what it truly means is so whatever you do becomes that beacon for people to say, okay, I lost. How can I find that? When you're interviewing, focus on what the other person in front of you is aiming for,
Mhm.
because they are not looking for specific answers to the problems that you are trying to do. They are looking for specific signals to score. Promotion is about perception and relationships. It's not about what you do, it's about how people see what you do. The more you share, the more you will enrich yourself with everyone else. And it costs no money to share what you know and learn from others.
My guest today is Eduardo Aparicio-Cardenas, a front-end engineer, Chrome extension thinker, and one of ADPList's top 100 mentors for front-end in 2025. His career spans over 15 years across startups, scale-ups, shipping production-grade React apps, driving front-end architecture, and leading developer experience efforts at companies like Stimlinks, North, and most recently Happening. Along the way, he founded two ventures aimed at turning big ideas into human-centered products. He's also one of those engineers who just keeps showing up as a mentor, speaker, builder, and open source contributor. Eduardo, thank you for joining me.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. It's been really looking forward for this day.
Thank you. Thank you. So let's start off. How did you become a front-end engineer? What made you grab a keyboard and start coding?
Start coding started when I was really young. So my mother used to be a programming teacher. She used to do COBOL and Pascal. She used to run courses. And when we didn't have a babysitter, she was actually taking us to the school and we were on the background while playing games to listen to the class. So we hear a little bit about programming. I think it was 12, 13, 14 years old. And I started hearing about that. At some point, it was really hilarious because I thought to my mind, I learned everything I need to know in a school. Now I wanted to go and study robotics in university and stuff like that.
Robotics. Okay.
Yeah.
Is it,
So
it's very similar to me because my mother is also a programming teacher and she was also in high school teaching Pascal and stuff like that. And it made me not like programming. like and I went to an electronics university just so I don't have to do computer science. Is it the same with you? Like you had this thing?
to be honest, it was settled on my mind. I wanted to actually study for very, very young on computer science. So I studied on a primary school any class about technology, which is allow us to do small circuits, small drawing. We actually did a lot of electronic circuits when I was a kid. So all of
Huh.
us directed to actually towards studying software engineering. I think it's a beautiful work. And you probably agree with me that you have never-ending possibilities to actually learn and develop yourself on it.
For sure. And how was robotics? How did robotics?
I studied robotics, so I managed to have a project where my thesis at the end of my degree was have a what's called ColdBot at the time, which it was having a 2000 euro sensor back in 2009. So we're
Mhm.
talking about like a really expensive thing that was be able to match by millimeters the room information. So the project was to actually visually represent how the robot was actually mapping an entire building, specifically a specific floor. So that was a bit kind of like what drive me a little bit more towards front end, where I was building a GUI on C++ with this Borla C++ builder program at the time to actually build those amazing UIs. And it was really hard. It was with predefined macros and all these components, it's still really hard to build something like that. It took
Impressive.
me almost 2 years to actually deliver everything.
So it was doing especially what Roombas are doing now, like mapping the floors, going through each room.
Exactly. So it was really
So
cool. And
basically, we have you to thank for that.
oh, I wish my technology and the algorithm is there, but I don't think it was me who invented. I think it was a really cool science. I have a paper on it. It's really cool.
It's very interesting. And how did you jump then to front end? Like what? How was your first job?
So my first job was as well at that time. So I actually have like a small parenthesis. In 2009, I went to Madrid and I started
Mhm.
my first job on a telecommunication company. because they were offering me a lot of money just to work as a junior engineer. So I couldn't resist that. So I stopped for a little bit the degree and then I actually went into learning and be able to do some practical experience. The job that was quite interesting. If you know that we have this TV or cable TV these days where you can actually navigate and choose video on demand. So we were actually at the beginning of that pioneer phase before video demand was actually available. And the only thing that you can see is what happened on the screen. So what I have to do is with the Eclipse ID, which probably most people don't remember, C++ plus kind of a transpiler into the decoder to actually display on the UI the information that we have for the grid of what's the specific broadcast of those particular channels and what you can expect from those programs. And you can navigate, see information and stuff like that.
This sounds very, very interesting, but also very, very hard.
Yeah, it is.
It seems very difficult for a first job to do.
It was for me. One of the things I always was, and I will remember with really a lot of care or nostalgia, if you must, which is when we went physically to, I think now it's called Ono. Back in the day was called something different. So we went to the headquarters where they have these data centers, and next to it they have like the studio area of programming and all stuff. So we were there and actually put our codes, and we have to test it there to actually know it's working. And what's interesting is because now in the digital world it's different, but at the time it was like some sort of loops. So what's happening that the signal have to go through the loop of all the information to actually be able to test your stuff. So you can test something, have to wait at least of 2-3 minutes, and then okay, you can test again something else on a specific program and see if it happens what you expect from it. So it wasn't like immediate response, it takes some time. But all of that drive me into that passion of I wanted to see something quickly. I wanted to explain something to my family. And that combination of both worlds make me, okay, front end is the place to be.
And over the 15 years experience that you have, which are the frameworks that you've used, the languages? I mean, you started with C, C++. How did it evolve? What did you switch to?
So we moved from C++ to, I don't know if you remember Moodle and Joomla and all these kind of
I remember
built-in
Joomla,
packages.
yeah.
So all of that is something that we were using as a CMS to speed up our development, but the core part of the development was done on PHP and jQuery. So we built those SAMP or LAMP servers, and we were like full stack at the time. We will call ourselves web developers, but in reality we were full stack at that time, right? So it was really exciting. So you were have to set up the server, you have to build full end-to-end websites. They give you a design, and you have to build everything from scratch. So you build a specific UI to actually display the website to the users, but at the same time, you need to display that CMS or content management systems to be able to provide that ability to change the content on the website. So that was my first step, PHP and jQuery, and it was no testing at all. So that was really unique. You have to do a lot of things, and we have to support i5.
Internet Explorer 5. Wow. That's I didn't have that pleasure. I started with AI6, but then very rarely had to fix for AI6. Mostly was the AI7. But I had the same beginning, like I was doing WordPress for the CMS, but same jQuery and PHP in the backend. Very
Yeah.
cool. And what
What's
was
interesting?
next afterwards?
Yeah, well, I was actually about to say that. So after that, I was going closer to your reality in that sense. So after that, I moved to a company, a small company. We actually did Moodle, but we rewrote Moodles, most of it, and started doing that. And we keep using the same technology. So I'm going to skip a little bit about Global Incubator. But when I arrived to UK, which was my first job, they use what's called Symfony. I don't know if you heard about Symfony.
Symphony, of course.
It's a
Yes,
framework
yes,
of PHP.
yes,
On top of that, we use Symfony 2. And after that, we use Laravel. And that
of
was for
course.
me the first touch with Laravel and all these frameworks. And all of that, we use require.js as well as a technology to actually dynamically fetch the resources. So you need to actually have everything in one go on the CSS and the JavaScript and all the stuff. So all of that was really cool. And after that, we moved to the beginning of Angular. So Angular 1.4, it was the primary area of work. And after that, we moved to Backbone.js. I don't know if you remember Backbone.js from
I
Google.
remember, yes.
And that was like, and from that, I spent, when I landed on 2016, I spent most of my time on React. And I haven't
Okay.
move away from it until this year when I joined Happening, which they use Vue.js.
Vue, okay, very interesting. You know, our histories are very very similar. I did the same. Like we were using Laravel 3 in the first, then we moved to Laravel 5, uh, Angular 1.6, Angular 1.8. Then I joined a company and I was using Angular 2 and Vue and then React. Like for me, React is the recent one and not. How are you liking Vue at Happening? Which Vue are you using, 2 or 3?
I started with Vue 2, but they were already migrated to Vue 3. So I actually was in the end phase of migrating to Vue 3.
Was that successful migration or not?
It was a successful pumping ride, but we did it. Well, I didn't participate on it, but the core team did it quite smoothly, and it was quite impressive that they managed to transition in one go. But
That's very impressive.
like TypeScript specifically, in the bottom line, they still have these defined components under the hood, right? So we still actually use the old logic on Vue 2 on how you define all these components. So it's still going to be a long process to migrate.
Nice. Tell me about Happening. How's your day to day look like? What are you working on? If you can talk about it, of course.
Of course, we can. So I wanted to answer as well your question in terms of how I found it different, but I will tackle the second one first, and then I can go back to the one that is more polemic. So happening for me is it's been a quick journey. So I was given the opportunity to join as a principal engineer on what's called WP, which is a big digital provider. But I decided to go for this job because I felt that I needed to take a step back, be able to just focus on delivering code, enjoy that area of my job, be able to work remotely first, which is not common in most of the job, and be able to actually have opportunities on that area. So I decided to take a step back. But interestingly enough, step back have been transformative for me because in reality I'm doing the same job I was doing before as a principal, but in the context of the senior. So my goal on day to day is we focus on web, we deliver what the business needs from us, and we focus how to optimize that pipelines for the customer. By joining the specific thing called payment experience, at the time that they were rolling out a new system for the payments, which was an iframe within the context of the website. So I was be able to experiment how the rollout of different jurisdictions was and how challenging that was, right, specifically. So, for example, we recently rolled out Brazil, and Brazil becomes one of the interesting markets for us because South of America have a different infrastructure in terms of communications compared with Europe, right? So one of the biggest challenges that we faced there was network. It was really slow comparing with what we see in Europe, and we were actually having performance slowness compared with Europe, right? So we have to invest that time. So my last month have been invested on understanding what's the reason why this market is twice lower than the European market and what actions we can take to make sure that we optimize that for the better experience of our customers because a slower connection particularly on payments, means that they are less likely to deposit money on our company. So my goal on the past month is try to analyze what's the cost and how we can solve it.
And what was the cause? Did you figure it out?
So yes, it was two levels. The first one is people in Brazil that use our website have slow or all devices. Some of them using Android 10. So it means that they are actually like old generation one. And the second is that the infrastructure in Brazil have a higher round trip time. RTT. So it has a slower time from the moment that you fetch the resources from the cloud front to actually arrive to the customer back again. So it's actually 3 times slower than Europe. So what that means for us is we need to think out of the box on the current implementation. So if you think about it, most of the architectures try to break the JavaScript into multiple bundles and try to ship those over the wire to optimize the amount of payload that you send so you can use the multiplex connection, right? But for us, actually, it's faster to group things together and send it together than try to break it down because you will pay the latency anyway. The extra time that it takes you to fetch the bundle will be actually negligible comparing with everything else, which is really interesting.
Makes sense.
So that's basically the two factors that were actually affecting us.
Did you try to make the bundle smaller just for Brazil, or how did you go on optimizing this?
So this is where we are. This is the journey we are, and probably we can hear a lot of insights from everyone on the audience and everyone that wanted to give me. But we have a boundless size at the moment,
Okay, that's
so it's
not
not
bad.
that big, right?
No, yeah.
The problem that we have right now is that we ship all the configuration for all the jurisdiction within the same bundle. So our moving forward will be to rather than increase the bundle size based on the new jurisdictions that we roll out, we're just gonna do like inject information into the bundle cycle and break down the bundle based on the jurisdictions, which will allow us to specifically only fetch what's required for every jurisdiction, which will compact even more or payload in that regard. And the second
Nice.
thing that we're going to introduce is the concept of pre-rendering, right? So we have right now client-side rendering, but as you might know, so the user journey for us is always going to be quite deterministic. Either you have a series of payment methods or you don't in most of the cases. So we can actually benefit from that and pre-rendering all the things that we expect from the customer without filling the specific amounts and send that over the wire to save us a lot of time. And that's what the direction we are going at the moment.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. And a nice, I think, complex issue that you're trying to solve. Have you ever had this in the past? Something similar that you worked on?
Never with Brazil. I have that before, and we went to server-side rendering with Next.js. But in Vue.js, you have Nux, but the company hasn't adopted Nux. So we have to build all client-side rendering, or we have to find mechanisms to do this server-side rendering, which is what puzzles me a little bit, right? So what I love now moving from what I miss moving from React to Vue.js is how solid is the ecosystem on React. Like having tools like Next.js to static side render, to pre-rendering, to generate server-side code really quickly. All of that kind of feels not as mature as Vue.js ecosystem.
Well, Vercel just bought Nuxt Labs. Hopefully, we're gonna get there, right? I actually like the people working on Nuxt. They seem very capable, very part of the ecosystem. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's really exciting to see how things are evolving. I think Vercel have put a lot of effort on the cloud computing and all the making the experience as smooth as possible. So I hope that happens anytime soon so we can benefit from it.
Have you thought about, or have you used any time in your past edge functions?
I haven't used it myself. I didn't have the privilege of using those ones at the moment. So this is one of the things that I still a lot of things to learn from my side as well.
Because I'm thinking with your Brazil issue, maybe moving like complex computations on the edge and having an edge server, sort of like a CDN next to Brazil, might help. But yeah, if the infrastructure is the same, might not help also. It's like what you said, it takes 3 times as long.
Yeah, no, but it's a really good suggestion. So I will take it with me and try to explore more because this is one of the things that when you are actually dealing with these things every day, you start finding solutions to problems. This is one of the things I talk always to my mentees and specifically, right? So the more you expose yourself to different problems, the more knowledge you will gather and the better you will become. And it's always going to be challenges that you have faced for first time that might feel overwhelming, but with people on the community and people around you, you will be able to overcome those challenges. Yes, this conversation already told me about this edge function that I can explore and take it with me so I actually can improve on that.
That's very good feedback. So how did you become a mentor? What are the first steps?
So the first step was I was actually always wanted to be a senior back on 2016. Most of the people say to become a senior, you need to mentor others.
Okay.
That's a luxury that people don't have every day because who you gonna mentor? If you only have one person next to you, it might be difficult to mentor more people, right? So over time, I tried to grow as a senior, try to develop my skill as a senior, and what I started doing it was sharing knowledge with the different groups like called guilds, meetups, etc., with others, and that brought me a sense of pride and engagement into the people found those things interesting. And over time, I got the confidence, and 3 years or 4 years ago, I decided to start regularly publishing content. And 2 years ago, or 2.5 years ago, I decided to become a mentor on Mentoring Club first and ADPList later. So when I started, I was really scared, but immediately people start giving me feedback. People were supporting me and constantly booking sessions with me, and that keep me going for today.
Nice. And how many sessions did you have so far?
So
Ballpark numbers.
I cannot say the number of sessions because I don't remember, but number of mentees, I think I have over 30,
Wow,
in the course of the past few years.
that's really cool. And how does a mentoring session start? Sorry, I never took one, so I don't know on either side. I've never mentored. I mentored juniors in my company, but I never used a service like this. And I'm curious, how do you start? Like someone books a message, they join a call with you. What do you do?
That's a very good question. So it very depends on the person's aspirations. So I have three types of mentees so far. One is mentees that are trying to grow their expertise. Some other mentees wanted to have a specific answer to a specific problem that they're facing, for example, interviewing. And the third kind of is looking for promotion, right? So each of ones have a different thing. And what I say to everyone from my side is this 45 minutes an hour is for you. We're going to do whatever you need to solve your specific problem or desire. And if you feel that this is valuable, we can carry on as long as you want. And this, some people will be one session. Some people will be, I think I have one that is been for 6 months already. Other people did it like 3 months. Then they got the job. They spend some time on the job and then come back, tell me how great the job was, and then spare sessions. So it's really depend on the specific reality of the person.
That's very interesting. Do you do this for free or
Yes.
you charge?
It's totally free. If you ever want a session with me, even if you just wanted to chat with me, feel free to book one. So the goal here for me is to grow as an engineer through sharing knowledge. So one of the strengths, and I highly recommend to everyone that is a senior, all the strengths that you get as a mentor is understand how people face different challenges. For us, we have gone through our own experience and becomes really easy. For others, maybe those challenges are completely different optic. Maybe I have blocked with something really simple, or maybe they are not thinking in the specific one. So I can give you an example of one of one unique session that I always treasure, which it was a CTO of a company back in India, which he had a big team. He wanted to take a specific PDF that was a PDF reader that wasn't working. I would spend the hour with me to see if I can help him and block that. And by actually pairing together, because as a CTO, doing with your peer might not feel correct or might feel that they think less of you. Sitting with someone else was actually empowering him together to spend in that time to solve his problem, to unblock and make sure that everything was feeling like a smooth transition now. That's one example of it. And it helped me to, okay, now I have to structure my communication in a particular order. I have to order my ideas because that person is a CTO and a regular engineer. How that person see problems is a completely different way that I see problems.
Very interesting. I like this use case. What's some of the feedback you give or advice? Let's say let's go back to the first group, which is people who want to learn. They want to learn. How do you help them? What's your go-to strategy? Let's say.
That's a very good question. I would say curiosity is the biggest driver to anyone, but as well frustration and anger. It might seem contradictory, but anger to prove that you are right and someone is wrong can be a really powerful motivator.
Wow,
So
that's so true.
what I say to people is, what's the specific thing that you wanted to prove yourself? Why you become an engineer? What's the specific area that you're trying to deliver to prove everyone that you are who you are and that you are the best at it, right? And this is the first motivator I try to do. The second one is a really interesting one. So is the concept of flow. Have you heard about the concept of flow?
Yes, I've
So
actually read the book. It's very nice.
you read the book, so that
Yes.
nothing I can tell you that. So you need to find that balance between both like feel bored versus feel anxiety, and find that balance between yourself. Because the more you grow the skill in a specific area, the more bored you will get out of it, and the more challenging something is, the more anxious you will be. So
Yeah.
here is where you need to develop that sense of ground where I'm happy to be anxious. I don't think it's a bad thing, but I always aim to reduce that anxiety somehow, either by learning, either by doing, or either by reaching out to someone else that can help me. So that's basically what I suggest to people most of the time. Like, find that thing that you wanted to prove to yourself or to others. Doesn't matter. It's not about being egoless. It's about just motivating you and feed that motivation. If it's either curiosity, anxiety, proof of point, even if someone disagrees with you, rather than argue with them, just go back, sit yourself, go through the things, and just prove that that's possible.
Yeah. I want to double down on the anger thing. I think it works so well. Just recently for me, like I'm organizing React Barcelona and I have a panel next week and I have some guests and I want to do like a Q&A where the audience can ask questions. And I went in to use Slido because I've heard of Slido, the tool, whatever. And I signed up for an account. I created a Q&A session and everything cost money. Like I couldn't like invite people. And I was so mad. I was like, I can build this in an hour. Like, how can you ask me for money? And I went in with AI and Cursor and built it in 30 minutes. And it's way better than Slido, I would say. But and it just shows you how anger and just I think if we didn't have AI, this is a separate discussion. I probably would have paid the $10 to use the service. Probably if it would have taken me more than 2 hours, or like the cost effort is not that high. But now where I can just say Cursor, build me this, and then I go and have a coffee and I just code review. It's just I don't know. It made me so angry, and I'm so happy that I found a solution.
Yeah, definitely. And this is one of the things that is for me a little bit different. I don't wanted to say any negative, but what I see difference from when I started to where we are today is the internal or intrinsic motivator of people when they are on the web space. I don't wanted to generalize, but on the development on the web space. So when I started, everything was about sharing knowledge, to share knowledge to, I don't know if you saw 3GS at the time, it was like all about all the amazing. But then they start building things on top. There are products that are commercial to try to sell you something. But that idea of inspirational sharing community, I feel that we have transition for that because everyone wanted to monetize their time. And this is why I feel is getting lost. So that's why I encourage everyone that I work with or that I mentor or that I actually spend time with is the more you share, the more you will enrich yourself with everyone else. And it costs no money to share what you know and learn from others.
Yeah, that's a beautiful sentiment. I also just saw an episode of an anime right now. It's called Dan Dan Dan.
Okay.
It's very beautiful, and it was the scene where a kid wants to pay back a lady for helping him, and the lady says that, "Don't pay me back, pay it forward, help someone else." And I think like you're saying the same thing. Like if someone helped you before, pay it forward, mentor others, and I think that's really really beautiful.
I didn't know if I say because of that episode because I watched it this morning as well.
Okay.
But no, I think is a really powerful thing, and I think we need to keep inspired. If you remember the presentation from Rosa on Greece, that it was basically all about this amazing, odd, beautiful world that was the web at the time, right? So
Yes, yes.
I feel that we need to go back to those roots. So that's why I love that you are doing this podcast, that you are sharing that knowledge. If I can support you on that and support the community, I always work on it. And I think it's the little I can do to contribute.
Thank you for it. I think a lot of people are appreciating it. I was gonna ask you've mentored 30 plus people. Who was in your life a mentor for you, and how did they help you?
I don't think I have ever had a mentor. I will
I
say
mean,
I have been, yeah,
I was
go
gonna
for it.
say not. It doesn't have to be an official mentor. Someone you considered a mentor, but maybe they were like just giving you advice.
And this is probably one of the reasons why I joined to mentoring is because I never have like a proper mentor. I have people in my life that have made me a big change. For example, when I was 17, I joined to a martial arts club that we call ninjutsu. I don't know if you've heard about it, but nin means nine, and means jutsu means technique. So it's actually have 9 schools of different martial arts that have been encompassed together over the years to provide discipline. So that actually, my sensei, he was an inspiration for me and he was a driver. His way of seeing, the way he transferred the knowledge on this particular skill into me, it was really powerful because Nin as well, apart from nine, means perseverance. So it was helping me to have that strength of mind to keep going, even if I don't manage to do the technique well the first time, the second time, the 100th time, keep going and keep trying. So for me, I think that person, I spent with him probably 3, 4 years. It was really transformative. He actually, everything from that point on my life, like when I have to join to the university, university is incredible hard on the computer science. I never give up. I go to every lessons. I went and studied outside, spent hours of passing my notes into proper notes and study all those equations and enjoy that complete unique way thanks to that experience.
That's very good. I hope people use that. I feel the same way in a lot of things. Especially, I read recently an article called something about agency and how people develop agency as they age and as they get more experience. And it's true that I think about now, like how I feel that I can do anything now. Like I feel like if I want to be a professional basketball player, I feel like I can do it, like obviously it's impossible, but I feel like, okay, if I put in the work, I know that now it is working. While when I was young, it just didn't seem possible for me. Like I don't know. It's a really beautiful piece. I'll link it in the description for people to read it. But do you feel the same way that you can do anything now if you put your mind to it?
So if you have to say on that particular piece, if you have to say what changed for you in that sense to make you feel that way, it was your successful venture on the company. It was something specific on your life that transformed from it's difficult to it's doable. So what does it change on that?
I think it's just because as I grew and I got more and more experience, I learned how to break down problems into simple problems, solvable problems. So I know it doesn't matter, like if it was like a huge project that I had to deliver in 3 months, okay, break it down into 3 weeks, make deliverables. And doing this over and over again over the past of my career, I realized that this is the solution to everything. Like if I have to become a basketball superstar in the NBA, I know I have to do the basic thing and just go and shoot a hoop like 5,000 times a day, get into shape. And I do like stuff iterable, and maybe when I'm 60, I can probably play in the NBA if science allows me.
Yeah, that's very true. I think this is one of the things that is a powerful as we talk about anxiety, it's stress, and boredom, as well as curiosity. This is one of the strongest motivators that we have these days. I think if I have to, from our conversation, if I have to take something away, it will be that. I think thank you very much for that particular piece because I think you actually make it even better. I can share myself. So try and conquer is one of the things that we have every day that we don't realize that is so powerful.
And super helpful. Well, I was gonna ask about mentees because I also have this in my one-on-ones with my junior developers. Usually they come to me and they tell me, I don't know what I don't know. Like I don't know what I should learn. I don't know where I'm doing good, where I'm doing bad. Have you ever heard these questions? What do you respond when this happens to you?
Yeah. So basically, what I tell them in general is, and it happened with my colleagues as well, is focus on something that you couldn't actually do quickly. So what was the cause of that problem? What was the specific area of that problem? Is that something that you can be better at? So, for example, if you write Jira tickets, if you do, so what's the right level of information that you would like to see from someone that shared with you? What's the right level of detail that you want on the description on a PR so you actually can understand the problem without have to go through every single line of code. If you face a problem that is annoys you, like for example, people say, you forgot to remove a console log. Can you do something about it? It's something that you can take action. And you can maybe you don't know. I don't know. I don't know how to do an ESLint custom rule. Hey, just go online, find it, build it. What's the limitation of that rule? I think with AI particularly and how things are evolving, we are getting some convenient answers that we don't actually try to find the root cause of what we are trying to solve. And this is why it's missing sometimes, right? So that curiosity that empowered you to find what you need. And it could be something as simple. I started writing because of that. I start becoming an engineer because of that. I start becoming a mentor because I didn't have good mentors as my managers at the time. I don't blame them because they've been promoted from a senior engineer into the position, so they're interested
Mm-hmm.
on delivering technology. They're not interested on growing people, and this is part of the nature of people, right? So what keep you there? And from the point of view of yourself, is like what would you like to see from those people that you are actually growing? What's the specific motive? What motivates you to basically have the one-on-one? It's your job, yes, but what can you get out of those sessions? What that you can learn from them?
Yeah, that's true. I want to see them grow. I want to see them happy. I usually give advice that is not work related, that helps people, or I think helps people, like the agency thing, like break a problem into small steps, stuff like that, which I think a lot of people might not think about, but need to hear. Um, Now, I was gonna ask, like, now to move to the third bucket, which is people who are looking for promotions, because we were talking about the promotions. What advice do you usually give to them?
I think promotion is about perception and relationships. It's not about what you do, it's about how people see what you do. And this is the hard truth of my life because, as you say, it's like, why now I'm a senior engineer and not a principal for many years when I used to be a principal? Is because the reality is I don't care about how people perceive me, but from the point
Mm-hmm.
of view of someone else, might be that title will have a big impact on my career, right? So generally, there are two goals for anyone that wanted to get a promotion: recognition and salary. If
Yes.
your salary is covered, the recognition becomes the main driver. What people recognize is that specific skill that is like engaged into understanding things in a unique way and be perceived like that source of knowledge that you will be the beacon of driving everyone safely.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I found for me. It's like when someone told me, well, I expect for you as a staff engineer to be a multiplier for the team, I never actually understood what it meant. And for
Mm-hmm.
me, a multiplier means hundred of things. I multiply productivity, multiply experience, multiply knowledge. But in reality, what it truly means is so whatever you do becomes that beacon for people to say, okay, I lost. How can I find that answer? And the senior you get, the more important that beacon is across the organization. And something I love, which I will share with you later, which is a specific link where they actually scope the area of impact based on your role. So
Mm-hmm.
when you impact your team only, you're a regular or senior engineer that is starting. When you impact your team and other things, means that you're actually a senior, that you're moving towards staff. When your changes impact the whole department, is when it becomes like that beacon, that reflectionary. And when you are actually impact the whole organization, then you are a principal. And if you go over that organization and impact the industry, like go to do speaking in public, go to provide repositories, open source technology like the JSON. So you become that what's called distinct engineer that everyone looks after to try to gather that knowledge that many people in our industry have become over the years, but that's what we're aiming for. So that perception is why it drives all that motivation.
Yeah, very interesting. And do you recommend them do big projects? Like in certain companies, you have to have like a promotion project that helps you, like you said, brings perceptions to you, brings media attentions, brings, people talk about your project and stuff like that. Do you recommend your mentees do that?
So it depends on the company you are, right? So it's really difficult to generalize. So if you are,
Mm-hmm.
for example, on Google, that's a kind of a mandatory thing. But if
Mm-hmm.
you're in an organization like Amazon, maybe it's less relevant. Or if you are an organization like us, it's completely irrelevant. So in organization, what I can share is the promotion. What we're looking for promotion is the impact that you have to the business. So when you are in companies like Google, having a project is kind of a mandatory thing. That's why there is actually a website like Project Scale by Google, where people launch projects to be able to be promoted. But if you go to companies like Amazon, maybe they have a different expectation. Or if you go to a startup, maybe having a project is actually go against that direction because you don't have that many resources. So you need to aim for what's the biggest impact? And that's why I was talking on happiness specifically, or promotion criteria is what in the past 6 months you have achieved to prove that you are at the level that you are performing. And what that means is, well, me as a senior, I can talk about the project that we are about to do. So we are migrating to Poland a technology. So they needed a piece to support certain things. I cannot tell you the details until we are live, but so what I did is I got dropped into this project as a request of my colleagues because they didn't have time for it. And what I did is, well, I have a product manager that didn't have the time to spend time to tell me about how things work and what the expectations. I have a designer that wasn't available for me to give me context about what the designs were doing. So rather than start criticizing myself and constantly reaching out to people. What I did, as you probably do on all the projects, is divide and conquer. So what do I know of this project? What do I know about the company? What do I know about the platform? What do I not know about the different requirements? Can I gather that from going to the website and experiencing myself? Can I gather that from other colleagues or developers that I know? So I gather all of that and make a proposal. Rather than just discuss the proposal, I implement the proposal. I say, this is what I think the flow should be with the least amount of effort, kind of MVP scenario. Is this, I understand it correctly? Is this what we need from the UI point of view and the backend point of view? No, etc., etc. And I move towards the direction of be sales driving and autonomous to achieve that goal, maximizing the impact of my work and minimizing the distraction across the board. So that's one thing. And when I go to ask for my promotion, for instance, I will say, well, we have this specific functionality that we needed to deliver with a strict deadline at the beginning of September that we finish in the first 2 weeks of August by doing this, and this, which the impact means that we unblock ourselves to do this, and this, and means that we can be in productions weeks earlier so people can test on silence and validate that that's the things that we wanted to do and we can reduce risk. And my goal is increase throughput at the same time mitigating risk. And this is what you will tell. Do you need that a personal project? Perhaps no, but this can become your personal project because you make it your own. You lead that, you coordinate with everyone, you become that beacon that I was telling you about earlier, where everyone knows what you expect from them and what you have to be expected from the stakeholders when you are delivering this. I think we are on Friday, so 2 days ago, we got feature complete, which it means after 1 week and a half of development, when it was expected to be arriving at the beginning of September.
Impressive. Do you recommend people focus on speed or code quality usually, or both? But
How you see that one that you can do it cheap, fast,
yeah,
so good?
yeah, and choose two. You can only choose two.
Exactly. I will say with technology these days, you can focus on multiple, but I think the most important is understanding the problem that you're solving. And this is not something that the AI can solve for you. You need to actually have that full understanding and that expectations. If you don't have that knowledge, whatever you build will require a lot of iterations and it will be pointless. So if you can actually understand best than everyone else what you need to do, then it's when you are actually gonna differentiate yourself from everyone else. And you will be able to say, okay, you are that beacon, and that beacon will mean your presence will be noticed every time you speak.
I get it. So, in your opinion, what makes a really good tech lead?
That's an interesting question. Are we talking about technique in terms of manager, or are we talking about tech lead in terms of just technology and direction?
Technology and direction, I would say.
Yeah, because I used to the concept of tech lead as your manager kind of thing. So I will say for you, you need to be the most curious person in the room. You have to be the most geeky person in the room. That's the first skill I look into people. If I can spend an hour talking about random thing that you came across that's really difficult to solve, that's really difficult to find, you're already telling me that you are really good at understanding something really unique. The second is you have to be really good at debugging the situation, not just on the code, but as well on the environment that you are in. And I will say the third one is to be able to communicate your ideas in a clear way that everyone will be able to understand, not only on the verbal way, but as well on the written way. If you are be able to explain what the challenges are how those challenges can be solved with these ideas that you are proposing, you will basically set up a strong direction that everyone can follow. If you are really good on the technical side, but no one will understand your ideas, then sometimes will become part of someone else's ideas. You will lose that potential and that driver.
Makes sense. I really love the advice about being a good communicator. I think that's very underrated and people don't really focus on it. You know, especially some software engineers are more introverted. They don't like to communicate that much, but they have expectations of becoming a leader, right? Like, and they don't focus on this, like this quality of really good communication, especially writing communication.
You mentioned something really valuable, and I think it's important to highlight it even more. And it's the fact that doesn't matter what kind of personality you are. If you are extrovert, introvert, you don't like to talk to people, that's all good. The important thing is whatever you communicate, either verbally or written, is something that people will understand. Because this is the challenge here, right? So if you don't like to talk to people, just write it down. Make sure that that's easy to understand. And then you just use that as your source of truth. And then whatever you say, refer to the document because I might not say it the way I want. And that will be your baseline. So the important thing on communication is not about how you transfer information to others, but how those others understand that information that you're sharing.
Very true. Now, I want to ask the second bucket, which I left for last because I think it's the most relatable in this day and age, let's say, is how are you helping people who are interviewing get a job? What do you advice do you give them? How do you help them?
Yeah, in the last podcast and the couple ones before, they actually gave a lot of good advice on interviewing. For me, I would say when you're interviewing, focus on what the other person in front of you is aiming for, because they are not looking for specific answers to the problems that you are trying to do. They are looking for specific signals to score you. So if the signal is about how much you know about technology, then focus on that. If the signal is about how well you code, focus on that. If the signal is about how well you communicate, try to do concise and clear communication over longs. And the most important thing that people don't say, but is always there, is how relatable are you to that other person? How well you create that relationship with the interviewer. Because even if your code is no ideal, you will put over defenses people have doubt if you are enjoyable.
That's true. So how do you tell your mentees to prepare for interviews?
Usually what I do is do a lot of mock interviews. Sit with your friends, sit with myself, sit with anyone that you have around you, and prepare an interview as it was a real thing. And the interesting part is Glassdoor or any other website have a lot of resources. The way people interview on that particular company. So take that, share it with a friend. That friend will become the interviewer and you the interviewer. But most importantly, you become the interviewer and another person becomes the interviewer. Because if you don't put yourself on another person's role, you might not never understand what they're aiming for. To be clear, that's a very good question, but in happening over the past 2 months, I've been having 3 interviews weekly with different people. So it means probably I have done by now close to 13 interviews in the last 2 months. So
Wow.
I was be able to meet a lot of people and the most people have in common in general is either they are really well prepared, but they are in their own world. Like, okay, I know that I have to share this because this is who I am and how good I am. And they focus on sharing their pitch, but not having another person on the other side. Alternatively, the way around. So they are too much in their head, but they don't actually saying what they are thinking. They are really smart people, but I cannot evaluate that person because I don't know what you're thinking. So if I ask you a question, try to think the question and say, okay, that's what the person is aiming for.
Very sound advice. Yes. That's pretty cool. Do you recommend any books for people to prepare for interviews or
100%. I have it on my background somewhere, cracking the code interview. This has
yeah.
been my Bible in a way as a masterpiece. I think it's really complex. Algorithmic questions are not there anymore, but the cycle of question and behavioral questions and coding questions still really relevant today. And having a look, use that plan to prepare yourself, I think it's really powerful.
I have the book as well. I actually never read it. It's
No,
no, it's really big though. It's like this. I've
you know,
never read it.
I did 80% of the question. I follow the 80% rule and I did 80% of the questions. Then I got the job and forgot about the book.
I love the system design interviews one. That one I read. It's very interesting. I also followed the author. He has a YouTube channel, and I find it funny that, in a book, he explains how Twitter works or Amazon or whatever works, stuff like that. But sort of simplistic, like, so you understand that you need like a load balancer, or you need different types of databases, and you have to think about sharding and stuff like that, which is, the book is really good explaining things simply. And I followed him, and he gets into, I don't know, how do you call it, like arguments online with people actually working at Amazon, and they're like, this is not how it works. It's like, you're lying to the people. We have millions of microservices. You cannot even imagine what we have.
That's really funny. I just shared the book with me. I'm really interested to read a little bit more. I will say for system design is one of those challenges because there is a lot of resources for overall architecture, but there is very little resources from front end part. So for example, for me, when I interview into system designs, generally I focus on the front end system design part of the interview. And candidates know we have understanding what that means. They tend to go a lot to the back end when they are designing a system. But then there are some really clever people. Like, I'll give you an example. Like you wanted to implement a search, right? And you
Yep.
wanted to see the content of that search. So there are a lot of code on the UI to make that possible. Today we have React Query, so we don't need to worry about it. But there is a lot of things that React Query does for us today. Do the infinite scrolling, to be able to pagination, to be able to dynamically re-update the cache, to optimistic updates. There is so much on the UI. And we never talk about that on system designs, and it feels like a loss in a way.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think there's also, like you said, not that many resources for front end system design. I am curious how other people do interviews for front end. At Glovo, we used to ask the candidate to build a chat. I think the chat is heavy, front end heavy. And I think candidates can see that it's front end heavy, and they try different things, and you can see how they model the data and everything. And I think it's a good use case to having a chat.
Yeah, I cannot tell you which one we use because otherwise
Of
it will be
course,
a
of course.
disclosure. But yeah, basically it's like you said. So
Hmm.
just to be clear, when I'm in a system design interviewing someone, I don't mind if they wanted to focus on the whole system or just the front end as a front end
Hmm.
interview. Why focus, and this is something I shared recently to the recruiters to share with the candidates, is focus on what you know and don't focus on what you don't know. Because when you're giving an answer, I wanted to understand deeper how much you understand that. So if you tell me to use WebSocket, then I will ask you all the details on WebSocket implementation.
Yeah.
If you ask me to do a REST API or GraphQL API, I will ask you what the details are on that. That's probably the biggest advice I can give is if you understand the problem, find something that you feel confident that you can deliver all the experience. And if you have some quirks on that experience, like for example, using Redux, understand that maybe even if you don't know that much, maybe there are other technologies that will support that even if you cannot defend it as strong. So the important thing is that you know what you're pitching, but most importantly as well, that you're confident that what you're pitching is the right solution.
Yeah. I agree. That's good advice. One more question for your mentees. I don't know if this ever happened or to you, that happened to you, but how would you recommend people handle burnout?
Burnout.
Yeah.
It happens to me very badly where I took a leave of absence for a couple of weeks. Obviously, I should have taken more, but so I would say the most important thing is use that anxiety for something. For
Hmm.
example, I start doing CrossFit.
Okay.
And that allowed me to release a lot of the stress. But just always be careful because if you have still been in burnout and anxiety, even if you have an exit on the exercise, you might injure yourself, which is what happened to me. So I
Oh.
was actually using it as an excuse, but I will still accumulate in that. So, when you are trying to overcome the burnout, a piece of advice is find the same thing strategy that you do to solve problems, divide and conquer. What's the different factors that are increasing my anxiety? Is my
Hmm.
manager? Is the work? Is the environment? Is the specific area of my life that is happening? What are the different factors? And what one of those I can control and can change? And this is the most important thing. If it's my manager, can I find a way to talk to my manager to tell about my reality and how I feel about my reality? Yes or no? If it's no, can I actually understand my manager and not worry about the outcome of my manager? And the same with family, the same with work. So the different aspects, can we remove those ones? Because it's always going to be there no matter what we do. Either we change jobs, those patterns always going to repeat. So you need to change yourself to adjust to those patterns.
I agree. I agree. I think also you need an introspection on yourself to see if the burnout is external or internal. Like you said, could be your manager, could be your team, could be your job, but it could also be you. Like you just hate programming. Maybe, like I know you have to eat and put food on the table, but maybe you can go into management or find something where your passions truly lies. And that's my advice.
Yeah. The another one that many people have faced, at least as a mentee, is I don't get the promotion I want, but I deserve that promotion. And generally, we don't actually realize that it's how we've been perceived, right? That what we have accomplished that is canceling that possibility of the promotion. Or it could be in a scenario that there is no head count for you to be promoted. So, but people don't say openly because it does sounds bad.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, final questions. What are some books that you would recommend my readers and listeners read?
That's a very good question. So for
What's your
me,
favorite book? Make it easier. I made it harder.
yes, because my favorite book is not about job or stuff. It's an author called Terry Pratchett. I
Of
don't know if you
course,
heard about it.
of course.
It's There are books like Images and Actions, like The Gods and stuff like that, that make a parody of the reality of the society in many different levels, and they are really entertaining. But if we talk about work and stuff like that, I highly recommend to read Never Split the Difference from Chris
You,
Voss.
I saw it behind you.
Yes. The second one I recommend is the staff engineering path.
Oh, I like that one as well.
And the third one is Joy Company. Sounds silly, but it's
Which one? Which one?
the Joy Company. I think I have it here, Joy Inc. So this one.
Oh, I never heard about it. How
So
we
this
built a
is,
workspace people of. Okay, I'm adding it in my wish list.
so this one is an amazing book. He has researched how to make a job enjoyable, and he make a company out of it, and people wanted to go to work because of it. It's an
That's
amazing
actually,
book.
I'm gonna read it. Right now, I'm actually reading this one. It's just called The Making of a Manager by
Really
Julie
cool.
Zhao. Yeah. Have you read it?
No, no, I will add it to my list as well.
Yeah. I saw it's very recommended. So Julie was actually the first designer at Facebook.
Okay.
So she joined Facebook when Facebook was a very, very small startup. And then she, like you said, got promoted into a manager and didn't know what to do. And this book is about that. And so far I'm at the beginning, but I really, really enjoy it.
Okay, I'm gonna have a check it out. For me, what's comments for me that you already read is The Flow. That will be my next book.
Yes, it is actually very good. It's also similar to, that book that was very famous a couple of years ago. What's it called? Something with The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
You know, my previous manager recommended me that when I was burnout, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, right now I'm a little bit influenced by that. If you recommend me that, might not be the best outcome.
It's sort of like a funny way of flow a book. So it's sort of the same thing in a way.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you, Eduardo. It was a blast hearing from you. You gave so many pieces of advice. I hope I can fit them into one episode. You gave me a lot of work, but I loved it. I loved it. I think a lot of people are right now looking for advice and looking for a mentor. And I'm going to put your links everywhere I can because I think you have a lot of knowledge to share. And thank you for joining me.
Thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure.